This time on Custom Works, we're looking at some of the fine details of the 60s truck, and also we have taken the meat wagon for an MOT, but how bad has it failed this time? Let's get to the workshop. The 60s truck. Wow, I've done a lot of work on this. A lot of sanding down, a lot of flattening down, a lot of shaping, got very sore fingertips, and quite an injury as well. But anyway, it's really coming on. Posted quite a few pictures on our social media, and then they've been reposted, and there's been a lot of reaction to it, a lot of controversy as well. But then again, that's what my builds are all about. You know, I don't set out building something like this thinking everyone's going to love it. You know, asymmetric, crazy truck that carries a motorbike. Got to say, part of the design for this as well, a lot of the ideas, a lot of the suggestions came from Rich Hughes, the owner of the truck. You know, he said, why don't we go down the asymmetric route? And I was just like, like you have to ask. Let's do it. So yeah, a lot of people really not liking the front, but way more people liking the truck as a whole, and a lot of people really liking just the asymmetric thing. As I always say, you know, hot rodding and customizing is the punk rock of cars. And if it pleases everyone, you've probably not built a hot rod or a custom. You know, it's got to be a little bit edgy. It's got to be a little bit different. It's got to be a little bit new. It's not as if I've just made it in the image of like Baris or Roth would have built something back in the day. I've added that modern twist as well. Those guys back in the day, they weren't just looking, they had no past. They were always looking to the future. And I tried to do that in the past, looking towards a future, but in that timeline, you know, like in Back to the Future, that's the one, where there's two separate timelines. I'm in the separate timeline that they were in, looking to their future with an eye on ours. Anyway, all of that nonsense and temporal discourse aside, let's have a look how the truck's coming on. Okay, so a while ago, we put that massive hench box section frame under this running board, and now what we're going to do is we're going to do that again, but probably in a better way than this. So I'll have Hot Rod legend Lee Cox helping me. It's just really difficult to do on my own. A lot of holding and welding, and it was all very heavy. Let's have a look how we got on with that. We've got to make them running boards really strong, because that's where the car's going to jack up from when it goes to a ramp for servicing or whatever. MOT, but also when it's dragging along the road. This thing sits super low, so we need some really strong for it to drag. So what we've done, we've made this 2x2 box section frame that's going to be bonded underneath the running board and then welded up to the chassis, and this is going to give us something good to lift the car and something good to drag in the road. But we don't want it like this. We need a smooth plate for dragging. So what I'm going to do, I've got this plate, and we've marked it out, and we're going to plug weld this onto this framework. So I'm going to go in with a plasma cutter, cut some nice ovals that we can weld through and get this onto this framework, and then we'll mount it under the car. And so here it is. We primed the back of it because this is now going to be bonded to the underside of that running board. pretty much forever. So what we're going to do now, get some glue on there, and then we're going to lift it into place. Right, so the glue is on the skid plate, and now we're going to lift it into position. Okay then, so that box section's in place now. We've got a lot of this, what is it, like 4mm plate that we're going to weld on so the car can drag along with a world of sparks coming out the back of it all day long if it wants. But we're going to weld this on actually on the ramp, because if you've ever laid under a car welding, you'll know that it's absolutely no fun at all. Absolutely no fun in the most absolute way that anything cannot be fun. Yes. Right, and so one of the milestones, and this has genuinely been difficult, is that I've pretty much got the insides of these wings like on the run sort of thing. They're definitely smooth, and they're just about flat as well. It's been really hard because I can't get the sander in here. I can just about get the DA into these bits, but to create this curve all the way along has been really difficult. And it's not as if the aluminium underneath this was, you know, particularly pleasing sort of aesthetic curve, because it wasn't. And also, really get some work done on this part as well. This is a really, really complex curve. It goes from quite a steep curve there to not so much of a curve there. This curves into it. There really is a whole mountain of work being done on this, but it's coming on. If you're building a car, you know, just never let it rest. Even if you do 10 minutes, even if you just order some parts, or even just do some planning ahead for what you're going to do, you know, tomorrow night or maybe at the weekend, it just gets the project out of the way. And that's what I've been doing. Now this really is the exciting bit. So I think on the last episode of last year, we were making these bullets. And these bullets, we cast them off and they were looking really cool. I trialed this one and then I got this one on, and I'm super happy with them. But then I was stuck with the problem that, wait a minute, this truck's meant to be asymmetric, and it is at the front, but it wasn't at the back. So with a lot of sort of deliberation over the Christmas period and a lot of thought, I thought, what I need to do is bring some shapes to the rear that tie the rear in with the front. And this is what I've done. So I formed a light that mirrors the light on the front, and it comes around the side of the vehicle, and then it comes here, and then the wing is blended in. And I know what you're all thinking, I've only put a light on one side, and to be honest, I'm really going to try and make it look like it's only got lights on one side. On the other side, I don't really know what I'm going to do there yet. It's yet to come to me. It will come in a dream. I don't want it to look like a light, because one thing that I've really liked from comments online is that people have seen the front and gone, well, you'll never take that on the road because it hasn't got two headlights. I can, because it's got the pop-up headlights, but no one actually realises that. So let's take a look at the front, just to remind ourselves of, you know, what on earth am I doing here? So let's go to the front. So on the front of the car, obviously, we've got this swept single eye that comes around the passenger side and all the way across and up to here. And that is what I'm trying to echo in the back. But hey, we're not talking about the front, we're talking about the back. So let's go back there. We got bullet, we got another bullet. And then, of course, this isn't fitted up to the actuator at the minute, but I'll be doing it by hand. Obviously this opens, and I love the bullets, but this bullet caught on the bodywork there. So I've had to come up with some sort of solution. And this is what I've come up with. Just remember, when the car's finished, I won't have to open this by hand. It will all be part of the remote control in the mechanical ballet that is the loading ramp for the motorbike. So, here we go. And as you can see, a section of the bullet actually rises up here, and then tucks in behind here. To find the pivot point of that was really difficult, but this can go hard back to its full extent, and at this point there's plenty of room for the ramp to come out. So let's have another look at that, but from many different angles, because it is pretty damn cool, even if I do say so myself. So as it actuates, it follows the body round, and then it closes in, reforming the shape of the bullet, and it closes. Also at this point, you know, the bumper also tracks into the body as well, which is nice and sort of pleasing to the eye. This really has been one of those things where you've got to, well, as I always say, mock it up before you cock it up. That was very difficult to do, and I had the flap coming off, the bullet flap off the side of it, just separate for about 2 weeks, and I had no idea how I was going to make it work. But I quite like how it just follows the body and opens and closes. And of course, this will all be electrically actuated and on remote control. But just because I'm so chuffed with it, chuffed, is that an international phrase? I don't know. But anyway, just because I'm chuffed with it, it means pleased. I'm going to shut it again and we can see it once more. Every time I see that, it reminds me of, I don't know if anyone watches The Orville, but the robot guy and his head opens up with the 2 guns, always reminds me of that. Also over the Christmas break, and during my rehabilitation to workshop life after laying in bed for weeks life, I've been tightening up all the panel gaps on this, and they really are starting to get there. I've got a little bit of fault on this radius I can feel as my finger goes round. It's certainly getting there. And I've done all this basically with 2 pieces of 40 grit together, and then just hours of that, literally hours of that. But that's how you get good panel gaps. Also, and this is something I'm working on today, I'm starting to get the wheel spats to actually fit. Now, at first I was going to have a panel gap all the way round, but I want a bit more shape to them, and I want like a larger trim around. So this already sits in on a rebate, a lot like the back one does. Let's just have a quick look at the rear one, just to show you what was going on here before I glassed over it. So this is how that one was, and as you can see, this sits inside the rebate, in there. The thing with this is that I would have to make this panel go in there and be removable. And when it went in, I'd have to have some pretty accurate sort of location for it. And then I'd have to make this panel gap really good. And like I've just said with the doors, making a panel gap really good and, you know, really uniform all the way around can be quite difficult. So what I'll do is I will do the same to this as I've done to that. And that will be where I'll put tape over all this bit, and as you can see, I can bring a bit more shape to the trim around it. This, I've got to say, this shape just here, absolutely ripped, straight from the Golden Tara. Not like the wings I've ripped off from the Golden Tara by George Baris. This was, I actually got my phone out and looked at a picture. You know, where it's not original, I will own up to it. But yes, so that goes like that. And what I'm going to do is just get fiberglass, go round it like this. Obviously it will just stick to the tape. It will stick to this bit, the wheel spat, and then go on there. But because this is of such a complex shape, when I go to fit this back up, it will always find its position. This method gives you the location point sort of thing, and it will always go in. It'll have a nice rounded edge. This will all be done in the gold trim. This will have the pattern stuff in it, and it just gives it a little bit more, I don't know. Again, I want to reach for the thing of a bit more of a factory finish, but good Lord, what factory would it be? I have no idea. It's certainly not a profitable one. But anyway, I'm going to do that, and then this will all fit, and this will all be nice. But let's have a look at that front one, because I reckon it's about dry, and we can actually pull it off. Oh dear. So moving back to the front, like I was saying on the back, I've added the fiberglass on. This has got about 3 or 4 layers there. It is actually stuck to the wheel spat, but not stuck because of the brown tape. And thanks to whoever gave me the tip of using brown tape, it is a little bit slippier than masking tape, so I can like remove this. So it is stuck to that, not stuck to that, so it will give me a flange that will sit up to the car, and also this already sits in quite a hefty rebate anyway, so it will really hold it there, and it will position it good because it comes up this curve and around here, and that will always help to sort of position it in its right place when it comes on and off. So a couple of screws to take out, and then let's see if I can prise it off and have it as a thing. There we have it. See, I've now got the perfect shape of the car there. What I'll now do, I'll remove the tape, and now I'll be able to actually mark this, you know, in a nice equidistant sort of line around here and fit it on. But I'm not just going to go equidistant to this, because I also want to just make sure that it will run parallel with, you know, other things, sort of the Cyclops light slot. Is that what we're calling it? I think that's what it is. So I just want to make sure that everything looks nice as it goes in, and I want to bring a peak up to here and a swoop back. Sweeps and peaks always look good. So let's get this tape off. Tape's off, that residue, and now we can try this on. And like I say, because this is literally moulded to the shape, it will just find its way, and that just fits. It just fits so nicely. So I'm going to sketch out now where I'm going to trim this back to, and of course this inner edge needs trimming back quite a lot. But to be honest, I cut the strips of fiberglass probably just a little bit too wide, so that's why I got that over flap. Mark that off. And that's looking pretty good. If ever you're doing this and like the fiberglass has moved, or it doesn't fully touch the panel, you think this isn't going to fit, what you can always do is re-tape it once the fiberglass is trimmed, and then you can sort of put filler on the back of the fiberglass and re-bed it up, so you really get that absolute zero tolerance sort of fitment to the bodywork. But anyway, let's get this cut, and then let's see what it's going to look like. that's that nice and trimmed up. And looking in about the shape, you know, I want it. I will make this so it's got a, you know, like a curve all the way around, so it's like a proper trim. You can see that that fits on and fits up to all the curves and undulations really nicely, and that can just be fitted back in onto, you know, some bolts into this rebate, and it's just going to fit nicely. You know, we could run a piece of beading around there like they have on steel cars where they come up on the seams. We could do that, but I've got a uniform gap, probably about 0.5 millimetre, all the way around. In fact, in some places it's fitting absolutely tight. So yeah, that's done, and it saves me a lot of time getting that panel gap straight. Right, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about something that a lot of people say, oh, where do you get ideas from for cars? And I think I found an untapped goldmine of ideas, and it's the model car world. Scale models of cars. I was recently sent a model of some cars, which is here. And these are very tiny die-cast cars sent to me by a bloke called Dave the Pirate off of Instagram, and he's definitely worth a follow. And this stuff's amazing. In the slightly larger scale cars, there's a guy called Customs who makes just amazing cars, and like if all his cars were real, he'd be like George Baris, Ed Roth and the Alexander brothers, all moulded into one. You know, you want ideas. The real car world has got ideas, but the model car world has got so many more, and you can take those ideas and make them real, or you could just make some model cars. You know, who cares? As long as you're doing something creative, that's great. But it's my sort of average tip for the week. Look to the model car world, because it was definitely a goldmine of inspiration right there. And also, thanks so much to Dave the Pirate for sending me that. It's just great. I love it. It's just so cool. Okay, and so the meat wagon and the MOT. If you remember back the last time we took it for an MOT, myself and Hot Rod legend Lee Cox, after about 3/4 of an hour, were actually asked to leave the MOT station. And I don't know, I think we were sort of accused of wasting their time. But hey, we went back. We weighed it. It was under 3 tons. It was 2.8 tons on the scales. We had to add a few plates and stuff. But we went back, and I have the failure sheet here, and it reads, the meat wagon MOT failure sheet. It failed on absolutely nothing. It passed. It has an MOT now. We've got a few bits to do to it just to make it drive a little bit nicer. It's a little bit roly-poly on the corners, but you know, we'd not been out on the road with it ever before. All them other times, that was all CGI, so I'd never actually driven it on the road. But in the legal capacity of going to the MOT station, I did drive it, and it had a bit too much body roll. So we're fitting some anti-roll bars, we're toughening up the suspension, and you can see all of that next time on Kustom Works. So that is it for another week. You know, this week, meat wagon passed its MOT, got loads done on the 60s truck, and next week we're going to be looking at the meat wagon and getting all those bits right, making it drive right, getting everything sort of working inside it, and it's going to be great. So join me next time when we have more Kustom Work madness. Oh yeah, don't forget, follow me on Facebook, on Instagram. I'll do TikTok as well if you can find that. It seems a maddening sort of crazy world to me, but I am now on there. And of course, watch here on YouTube next week. Until next time, I thank you very much and good night!